Good evening, everyone. We will begin the meeting, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and a special welcome to all the residents and board members who are joining us tonight via Zoom. The Board of Directors has asked our future planning committee to take the lead in organizing Hidden Valley Lake's 50th birthday celebration in 2022. They will be reaching out to committees, clubs, and property owners for their input and assistance in planning for this important milestone. George Lortz will have more information in future planning's report this evening. We are happy to announce that Hidden Valley Lake will host the Spring 2022 meeting of the Ohio Lakes Community Association. You might recall that we were set to host their Fall 2020 meeting, but had to cancel because of COVID restrictions. This is just one more sign that we might finally be returning to some semblance of normalcy. The campaigns for 2 board of directors positions are in full swing. Ginny Boyer, Doug Gabbard, and Rich Gannon hosted a candidates night on March 11th, and a recording of this event, along with questions to the candidates and their answers, can be found on our website. Remember that ballots are due back to the POA office no later than April 19th. We will announce the results to the community on April 22nd at our annual meeting. Speaking of our annual meeting, by the time it takes place on April 22nd, Governor Holcomb will have lifted most restrictions on crowd sizes and mask requirements. We look forward to having a long overdue celebration and being able to accommodate more residents than was possible during the pandemic. All right, Bob is going to be wearing 2 hats tonight. If you would like to do the treasurer's report first.
Okay. Our financial position as of the end of February 2021, our cash was $732,714. At the end of February 28th, our cash position was $1,134,837. And of course, as everybody knows, these funds, some of those represent escrowed funds. Some of those funds represent kind of a safety net. So it's not that we just have $1 million laying around, you know. But anyway, those are the numbers. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
All right, and the minutes.
I would make a motion that we accept the minutes from February the 25th.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone in attendance about the meetings from the February minutes from the February meeting? All in favor?
Aye.
Those minutes are accepted as written. Thank you, Bob. Dave, our community manager's report.
Good evening. Our dredging is planned to return to the main lake as soon as we get a little bit more water in the lake, hopefully after this weekend. Our maintenance team continues to ramp up for the summer. They're freshening up mulch, as you might have seen coming into the building, doing painting, repairing. These are all the goals for spring, as well as some drainage work projects. Before long, we will be opening the pool, and that'll take some time. Unfortunately, we were unable to get to the riprap installed in the creeks leading into the lake. We hope to get this done in the summer. We've leveled some trip hazards on the walkway down to the beach. And the tennis courts and basketball courts will have some crack seals sometime this spring. That's going to be probably an annual thing that we'll have to do to maintain those two courts. In our office, they will be closed on Good Friday, April 2nd. That's a holiday for us. We're in the hiring process for an accounts receivable position. And the keypad system at the athletic center crashed last fall. And we've kind of limped along until recently when we've replaced that with a card system that's compatible with our current door lock system. Creates a better tracking for who's in the center and eliminates the keypad, which has been problematic in the past due to the nature of keypads out in the outdoors. That's all I have for now. Any questions? Yes.
Ken Warlock, 2790, you're looking for someone for accounts receivable. Did someone leave that position that you replaced it?
They've let us know that they will be leaving at the end of summer.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Moving on to the committees. Mr. Cross, Architecture.
Good evening, I'm Tom Cross, 1574 and 1573, reverse order there. Well, if I could this evening, let me go to item 2 before I go back to item 1. We do have one request for the board for a performance bond return.
Alrighty.
It's for lot 1676 that's located at 1147 Montclair Court. Owner is John Hummel. Bond is in the amount of $500. There are 0 dues and 0 fines outstanding.
I move that we return that bond fee.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any questions or concerns from anyone in attendance? All in favor of returning this bond? Aye.
Aye.
It has been authorized, Tom.
Thank you. In addition to that, this evening, we do have a modest proposal for a change in the bylaws. The change concerns section 4-13 on the rules for fences. I will read you as it is currently written, and then I'll read you the proposed change. Currently, it says that fences require approval. And under that, it says fences require hvlpoa administrative or architecture committee approval prior to being built or placed on a lot. We've had some problems with some of the lot lines not being clearly defined or not being clearly understood by some of our property owners. And due to that, we would like this particular change to the bylaws, and I'll read it as we'd like it changed. We would like it to say fences require approval and lot line survey. Under that, fences require only architecture committee approval. We'd like to eliminate the HVL administrative approval and have all fence approval run past the architecture committee. So fences require architecture committee approval prior to being built or placed on a lot. Once the approval has been granted, property lines must be surveyed by an Indiana licensed surveyor due to ensure the accuracy of that placement.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone in attendance about this proposed fence change?
We really should make
Yes.
a motion to.
George Lawrence, lot 1882.
Yes, sir.
Tom, I was wondering, there seems to be that you would be granting the approval prior to the actual survey.
Yes, sir.
I'm just kind of wondering why that sequence. It seems.
Yes, sir. You're asking me why we're asking for the surveyor ask for the approval. We thought, and the committee would be unanimous on this thought, that if we were to require a survey prior to approval and the homeowner went and paid for a survey and then proposed a fence that was not what we would want on that particular property, that the homeowner could be unhappy, that they had spent the money for a survey and then not had their fence approved. So I think that by having them come to the committee first, taking a look at what they want to put on their lot, say that's good, we like that, then finding out that the placement of that particular fence is, again, accurate and in proper placement to their lot lines. Yes, sir.
If you do it in that sequence, are you implying then that if the survey didn't work out correctly, you could then deny the approval?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think the survey is so that once the offense is approved, that we're sure that it's placed accurately on the lot line. It doesn't impinge on anyone else's property.
Okay, so you're not attaching the approval of the request to the actual survey then?
Oh, no, sir. And again, that's why we wanted the approval first in that particular order. So once the fence is approved, we're fine with you placing the fence. We just want to make sure that it's approved or that it's placed properly. Am I not being clear?
No, it just seems to be that if the survey turns out to be incorrect from what was assumed when you made the approval, it would seem to me that the survey proved something different. If you as a committee should have the right to disapprove your previous decision.
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, again, I would say that we're asking that the fence be approved. Therefore, what they're asking for, what they're asking to be permitted for, is a particular fence. And once we look at that and say, yes, that fence is fine, we're allowing you to place that fence on your property, we then would require the survey to make sure that the fence that's approved is placed on the property line.
Okay, so your approval then is for the fence itself only, not the location?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And Tom, generally, people are going to put fences to the maximum allowable with the setbacks in consideration, aren't they? So
Certainly,
essentially,
in most cases.
okay, what the
as
survey
our-
is going to do then is just verify that the homeowner's understanding of where the setback is consistent with what the surveyor.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we've had a couple of instances come up
Yeah.
where the property owner has said, well, here's my property line, and it's not. For one reason or another, it's just not accurate where they think it is, or perhaps where their abutting properties might think it is. So in this case, we just want to make sure that the fence is put where it needs to be and not on someone else's property.
Okay. Now, was there another question?
I did have a question.
Just name and not number,
Oh,
please.
Amy Ayers, 2106. Just out of curiosity, how much does a survey typically run to get that done?
We're not asking for a full survey in this case. We're asking for lot line.
And then how much would that I'm just out of curiosity.
Not a surveyor,
Right.
but I'm guessing somewhere in maybe the $200, $250 range.
And then would the valley be able to recommend someone to do that?
I'm not sure. We can certainly give you a list of
Okay.
some of the surveyors that have done work here in the valley.
And
I don't
Amy,
know that we recommend. I'm not
Well,
sure we'd wanna
or
go
a
that
list,
far.
right.
but
I was
of
just
what
curious.
Possibles. And Amy, depending on how recently that property was surveyed, it may be something as simple as just locating pins that are already there, which is a far less complicated and expensive manner.
Does the valley not have a master sheet of the majority, almost all of these properties like that? 'Cause I think when we bought our house, it came from the valley. So I was just curious, because I'm sitting here thinking, oh, well, where is my property?
We do have plot plans, but you don't really know where the lines actually are relative to the roads and the other properties.
Okay,
Except for pins that are actually placed in the ground.
right. Okay,
And
I
I
was
think-
just curious.
Yeah.
As Mr. Sharp has said, your plot plan will give you the dimensions of your lot. Let's say it's 70 by 199.
Right,
But where does that 70 and where does that 199 begin and end? And that's what we're concerned with. In some cases, there's some confusion between some of the property owners. So
Absolutely,
we
yeah.
want to ensure that if I'm putting up a fence and you're my abutting neighbor, I certainly don't want to put my.
Oh,
family on
absolutely.
your-
Oh,
on your
yes,
property.
yes. No, I mean, I'm just total
That's what we're trying to
curiosity.
safeguard.
Right.
Right,
I
right.
agree.
And I think we've had some history of using existing plot plans, people in good faith putting something on their property consistent with them, only to find out that they were
That's
not
not-
drawn correctly. And that's just tearing things out and reworking things down the road. So this is just an effort to
Absolutely.
make
and
sure
that's our
that all of
impetus
that's
here.
taken care of up front. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Tom. All right. Thank you very
I
much.
would make a motion, Pat, that we accept this recommendation as a first reading.
I need a second from Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you. All right. Thank you very much. George, future planning.
Thank you, Pat. I'm George Lords. I'm Chair of the Future Planning Committee. Glad to be here tonight and hope we can meet in much greater numbers in the near future. I have a couple things to talk about. First, we have a new committee member, Dee Hacker, is agreed to join our committee, and you're going to hear in just a minute why she wants to do that. The second thing on the agenda is that, as Pat announced, we are hoping to have a pretty significant 50th anniversary celebration of our founding date next year. Now, we don't have any details yet on what these events might be, but we are planning, as Pat pointed out, to form a task force. And it looks like now the Hackers are very willing to chair that task force. So we'll be putting out information about the task force, how you can join the task force, and at least a little bit of information about what we're thinking about for next year. But it is a pretty significant year. 50 is a long time. And I don't think anybody in here is 50. They do. Come on now. At any rate, we're looking forward to this, and I think it's going to be a great event. And we'll get information out as soon as possible on that. Pat announced the Alta meeting, the Ohio Lakes Community Association, and we have agreed to sponsor that a year from now in April, and we'll be doing a lot more with that as you will hear along the way. Basically, it'll be just try to make the valley as good-looking as possible. And all these folks show up from all over the state of Ohio. What we have been spending most of our time on, the Future Planning Committee, is actually participating in a communications task force. We formed this task force last fall under the direction of Rich Gannon. And we have 7 initiatives going, and we're working hard on all 7 of them. Just real quickly, one of the initiatives was to add texting capabilities to POA communications. That's done. That's now you're able to do that. We are very actively working on enhancing the echoes. And some of you may have noticed some of the format changes, some of the content changes in the echoes. And that's going to be going on for some time now. Our next big project is going to be working on the POA website. Try to make it more usable, more presentable, more representative of the community. And that's our next big initiative to start working as soon as possible. One that is almost done, I'm told by Rich, is the enhancement of this room for multimedia communications. And Rich has done a great job getting that going. There are 2 things we have to tweak yet. And other than that, this room is becoming much more usable for online virtual meetings. We are also going to work with the group that's called Neighbors Helping Neighbors. That was an initiative that's been going on for probably 10 years now, not formalized, but basically it's our There are folks that live here in Hidden Valley, residents in Hidden Valley, who would make themselves available to help other people in need. And of course, during the COVID thing, that got to be pretty important. People running shopping errands and stuff like that. But this would be a much broader helping neighbors type project, and we hope to get that expanded. We have a project looking at the HVL exit signs. There are 4 of them, I think. And our hope is someday we may be able to digitize these signs, make them modifiable from the office, and really keep these signs up to date on a much more dynamic basis. So we're looking at that. We may pilot the front entrance first to see if this is going to be meets expense criteria and also meets what our needs would be. But the idea would be from the office, we can dynamically change what's on those exit and entrance signs. The last thing, which is going to be a little bit of an issue, it's a project that's been worked on for a number of years, but that is to upgrade the Hidden Valley Lake high-speed internet capability. We have looked at several options here. There are, unfortunately, caveats to all of them. They look good on paper, but not necessarily are they going to be achievable. So we are still working on that. We have yet to come up with a solution to that problem, which would meet cost criteria as well as speed criteria. But that is our 7th initiative, and that is to get hopefully the whole valley upgraded in internet speed capabilities. Okay, so that's basically what we're working on at this point. Awfully busy. Would entertain anybody interested in joining us. So we have a lot on our plate, and with the 50th anniversary coming up, and the Ultra meeting is going to get even busier for us. So that's my report. Are there any questions?
Yeah, George, were you talking about the internet?
A name and lot number, please.
Yes, thank you. 3070 through 72. Are you looking at multiple companies for competitive so that we have competitive bidding within the valley too?
Yeah.
Okay.
The biggest problem now, Jeff, though, is
Yes.
What is the technology of the solution?
Right.
One company, for example, came in and said, "Well, we'll dig trenches and put high-speed internet lines all over underground." Wait a minute, who's going to pay for that?
Right.
And so they're really settling on a solution is the first thing we got to do. Then we'll go out for multiple bids within that solution. So I think that's kind of the sequence we're looking at right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Um,
Thank you very much.
George, on behalf of the board, please thank your committee and the task force members. You've accomplished a great deal in just a few short months. So thank you for all you're doing to enhance communications here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Robert, I owe you an apology. You probably thought I was giving you agenda whiplash over there, but in Kyle Packer's absence, could you make motions on the financial statements, please?
Yes, the Finance Committee met recently and unanimously approved and requested the board approve the October, November of 2020 and January of 2021 financial statements. So I make the motion that we approve those.
Dave, any questions, concerns, issues with the financial statements? Okay, all in favor of accepting October, November of 2020 and January 2021? Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Bob. Okay. Mr. Patterson. Come on down.
Can you feel the love?
I have that effect on people.
I will try.
Please. Okay, I'm Dave Patterson, Lot 1533, Chairman of the Lakes Committee. And just for the record, it is the Lakes Committee. The Parks has been split off a month or two ago, so that will be being reported separately from here on, or once they get themselves pulled together. At the last Lakes meeting, Dave Jeffcoat, who was chairing the Highway Task Force, he basically represented his their presentation and the recommendations the task force was charged to do, which was basically to address the highway rule that's in place currently. John Dutton gave a very well-researched report following that, mentioning and going through the potential negative effects of allowing wave surfing on HVL. I think Dave Wisman's got copies of both presentations in his office if someone's wanting to go through and listen to them. The positions of both the presenters were very, very different. The Highway Task Force was wanting to approve wake surfing in certain times in certain places. John's position was that wake surfing was not a good thing for the lake. I was trying to see if we couldn't come up with some middle ground between the presentations. That didn't happen, so because we had a task force charged basically by the committee and the board, we were forced to vote on what the task force presented. And what the task force's presentation was to replace the existing rule, which is that damaging or dangerous wake is prohibited. The use of installed boat devices and/or boat operations that cause the creation of damaging or dangerous wakes are prohibited on HVL Main Lake. They want to replace that with wake surfing. Wake surfing is allowed in the high-speed zone on the main lake from the dam to near Moore Park. The exact end of the wake surfing zone will be marked by 2 red buoys. While wake surfing boats should be as close to the center of the lake as practical, but at least 200 feet off the shoreline, wake surfing will not be allowed on weekends and federal holidays beginning Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend from noon to 6. A motion was made to approve the recommendation of the task force and seconded. The vote was 0 for and 7 against. So that recommendation was not accepted.
So is the work of the task force finished now?
I have not heard anything back. I went at the end of the meeting. I mentioned to both of them, or especially to the task force, that they still had the right to come and present to the board if they so wanted. But I knew also that if that was going to happen, the board wanted to hear John's presentation and the task force presentation in an executive session prior to the board meeting. Because the board meeting even longer than I make it. So.
I'm not saying anything, Dave.
You already did.
Oh, I do it in fun. For the benefit of folks who haven't been watching this whole high wave, the Lake Patrol is perfectly willing to enforce it, but the rule is very nebulous. So the task force was charged with just giving enough of a definition, enough clarity around what the rule meant, because there's no point in having any rule if it can't be enforced and if nobody knows what the heck it is. But in a nutshell, the Highway Task Force essentially said this activity, which is a generator of these high waves, would be permissible in certain parts of the lake at certain times.
That's correct. And they chose that because they felt that wake surfing generated the most egregious waves.
Okay.
So they felt that that's what they would attack, as opposed to the rest of the range of potentials that they could have.
Okay. All right, so where it stands now, if these individuals wish to come to the board, we would ask, given its complexity, that we get to see it before seeing it again in an open meeting, and we would extend the same invitation to John if he wished to present to the board on that basis as well.
Yes.
Okay.
My last communication with Dave Jeffcoat was that he was kind of waiting for the results of Scott, myself, and you and Dave getting together and seeing what the next steps might be. Well, that meeting didn't happen because work things got in the way for me. Scott was out and so forth. I think that can probably happen next week, at which time we can then give Dave our feedback and recommendations as to what the next step might be for the task force at that point in time.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I think we are. Otherwise, the way it stands right now, the rule is unchanged.
Okay, and for everyone, if this rule is modified, it will require 2 readings in an open board meeting. So nothing is happening right now. The rule, as ununderstandable as it is, indeed that's a word, still stands. But if there is any language is agreed upon to change it, it will be read twice here
Absolutely.
before being voted on by the board.
Absolutely.
Steven.
Steve,
I think you have some questions.
yes. It's Steve back there, as I can see.
I'm good for it. Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Okay. Steve Sorrell, 1930, 1931. Seems to me if the task force was charged to come up with a definition, can't they be reformed and recharged to actually come back with what they were supposed to do, a definition of a high wave?
I can
When we wouldn't allow weight, but
I can
you
address
still have
that
no definition.
a little bit. They did come to the preceding Lakes Committee meeting, made a presentation. They were given feedback from the committee, specifically also from Scott and myself. And they had a couple more task force meetings. Basically came back with a very much unchanged presentation and recommendation the second time around. So to your point, they were basically charged to, okay, go back and think about it, but didn't make much changes. You know,
Okay.
they will possibly try and come back with a third round. I don't know where they're going to go at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Tom Cross, 1573 and 4. Given our bylaws and the current rule against damaging highways, is there misunderstanding that these waves are doing damage to our lake shore, and that because of that damage that we're incurring some expenses on some of those lake property owners to repair the damage that's being done? I don't quite understand what, if we have the rule, why can't it be enforced?
Definition of what is damaging and dangerous to you, and to one thing. Number two, we have had very, very, very few complaints about people's shorelines and docks being damaged. Over the past several years, I can only think of a few. But the definition of what is dangerous and damaging, and then if you can define it, how do you measure it? So it's a very, very subjective rule at this point in time. So what we're trying to get to is something that's more measurable, and because the lake patrol can turn around and say you're throwing up too much of a wake. And then you look back and where is it? What is it? And as far as damage goes, how do you know what damage is caused by what specific wave, or was it the spring storm that came through the preceding weekend? There's all kinds of nebulous things with the rule that's in place right now.
So then, if I'm understanding correctly, as it stands now with the onset of voting season right around the corner, there will be no changes at this point.
At this point in time, there's no changes. That's correct. And I anticipate that the topic is going to be discussed at future Lakes Committee meetings.
Thank you.
Yep. John.
John Dutton-Lott, 1854 and 1855. As part of my presentation, I did make a recommendation for a rule proposal for that to change. It did not get discussed fully to go to vote. The problem has been defining dangerous and damaging. That's you can't. So both of the rules, the first one from 2004 and then the current version of 2011, both of them mention boat operation and devices used to create that type of wake. So that's where my proposal focuses on, is you have to use those type of devices and boat operation to wake surf. And I just Googled small lakes and wake boats, and the information just exploded. And as far as why it's bad, property damage, safety, it prohibits activities out on the lake, the erosion, the algae bloom, just all over the place. So at the next Lakes Committee meeting, I'm going to reintroduce that, and I assume that we'll have a discussion and a vote on that. And I can make that available to anyone that wants to see what that proposal is ahead of time.
And that's a good rendition of what's probably going to happen at the next meeting too. Anything else on this topic? Okay. Sorry, Ken.
One thing. On the, at the Lakes Committee meeting, it's in the minutes that you explained that even though the committee did not support the recommendation, the task force could still take their recommendations to the board.
That's what I said. That's right.
And if that were the case, the board will want to see both presentations in an executive session prior to the next board meeting,
You're right.
which is tonight. If they haven't presented anything to the board, is their work done?
Put it, okay. Prior to it coming to a board,
Huh.
it needs to go to the preceding executive session. Whether that board meeting that they want to go to is the next one or 3 or 4 one out. It has to be presented to an executive session prior to coming to the board.
The reason I asked that, because it said prior to the next board meeting, is because I thought we wanted to get a new rule, a rule that was enforceable in place prior to this boating season.
We want it to be the right rule. So I don't
Exactly. But if the task force hasn't presented to the board that that they still have more work to do, basically my thing is that they were tasked with modifying or clarifying the existing rule, and they basically abolished that rule and want to institute the wake surfing. So my thought is, since the task force did not do what they were tasked with doing, and they haven't brought anything back to the board, why are they even still in existence? They did not do what they were charged with doing to begin with. So why are we going to drag it out for another month, another month, another month? John's got a proposal which we'll go over at the April meeting, but we need to get something going and something in place before the boating season.
Ken, we might just be splitting hairs here. The work of the High Wave Task Force, when their recommendation was not accepted, was essentially done. However, these same individuals have the right at any time, just like any resident does here, to come before the board, as will John, who has a very different view and opinion on the subject of these high waves. This is the court of last resort, for lack of a better term. You can always appeal things to the board. Now, your point is that timing is going to be a little bit of a problem because we're going to start voting in May. And if the rule came before us in April, the soonest it would be voted on would be May. And my guess is that would be a stretch, that there would be quite a bit of community input that might stretch that out a little longer.
That was also one of the topics that was mentioned, is that before we make a change to the rule, that we get some input from the community too. Yes.
Doug Gabbard, lot 218. Why are we chasing the size of the wave? We already got a definition of how large a boat can be and probably speeds. If you define that, you can measure a boat speed, you can measure boat size and boat weight. If they want to make bigger waves, they have to modify the boat that wouldn't fit the requirements anymore.
It would still fit the requirements because you can just stick 3 or 4 people in the back end of the boat and trim it and tab it and plow, and that'll create the waves that you need.
I was just trying to think of a way to. You've got some things in place already because, like you said, you can't measure a wave after the wave is gone.
Yeah. And yeah, we do have limitations on boat size and on also there is a speed limit.
Yeah, because you're just some people will get back to boat. You're not going to stop everybody.
No, I agree.
Well, again, John, to wake surf, you go 10 to 12 miles an hour, which is what they want to do in the middle of the high speed zone. Yeah. And it creates that type of wake that is a lot larger than a normal wake. So the wake boats themselves are allowed. Tubing, skiing, wakeboarding, those are allowed. It's this wake surfing that's the issue. Like I said, just Google small lakes and wake boats. It's crazy. All across the country, people are having problems with them, and the damage. Lake Santee is having problems.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
get into
Dave,
this.
just keep us
Yeah.
up to date
Yeah,
on
this will
what
get-
is
yeah.
happening, and the board will be happy whenever groups are ready to
Okay.
hear what they would like to say.
By all means, you're welcome to come to the next meeting.
Yeah, I was just curious,
Oh, okay.
Dave,
Yeah.
if I could make a recommendation for all you guys, don't bring up the weight, the boat length. I brought this up 4 years ago in an open meeting. I'm a boater. I own ski boats. I own bass boats. You can manipulate anything you want to. We need to get away from the 20-foot boat, or that's not going to help us here. It's more of what the boat's designed to do. We can look at weight. We can look at displacement. There's so many things you can look at, but we're just beating our head against the wall when we're talking about, you know, a 20-foot length, or, you know, it's.
Yeah. There's no impetus or even discussion at this point in time about making any modifications to the length limits on the boats. And that's why I don't, because there's so many pieces and parts to this, and there's so much input. I mean, that's why I don't want to just try and slam something in here. And if it doesn't get done until June or July, so what? I mean, you can implementing a rule that governs activity is not the same as implementing a rule that governs something you physically can or can't do with your boat or your dock. You're talking about regulating an activity. You can come up with next week and say, speed limit in the valley is 20. You better modify your behavior accordingly. I mean, there's never a good time for that kind. So I'd rather we spend the time and come up with something that's addresses the problem the right way. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. I think the Southeast Indiana REMC is having their board meeting coming up. We have a resident who is running for the board of directors, and it would be nice if this community could support that resident. Jeff Bittner is running for one of the seats on the board of directors. I don't know whether the election is over yet. The ballots have been out. When the deadline to get them back is, I'm not sure.
I think it's the second last day in March they have to be in.
Okay. I think
And you can vote online, and I think mail ballots went out as well.
Yeah, Tuesday the 30th is when the meeting is. Someone had also requested that we delay closing the sluice gate because of we delayed opening it, and also it was very cold and you couldn't get a whole lot of work done. Dave brought up and mentioned to us that, you know, we've got commitments to the dredger. We got to get this closed and the lake up so we can get going on that contract. So the committee said, no, we're going to leave it on the right schedule. Fish and Game Club.
So you retooling your idea?
Reported that the club is going to be reducing the number of tournaments by approximately 25% this year to reduce the pressure on fishing on the fish on the lake. They'll probably be taking tournaments to perhaps Brookville or maybe some other lakes involved too. They're also continuing to work on putting more structure into the lake. They're looking at the kids fishing derby. They're saying that they will hold it this year. Eric made a motion that we approve $750 to purchase the catfish for the derby. That motion was approved, so we'll be supporting them in that regard as well. That's something we do every year. Covered boat lifts. Cody Jansen been presented on the proposal on that. That proposal is going along well. It's got the support of the committee. I think the next step is they're going to put out a survey to the community to get some input on that topic. Dredging is going to be, like I said, as soon as the lake comes up. The silt removal point is down at the end of the beach where the one loading and unloading dock is going to be. So we're not going to, in past, we've done the loading and unloading from the wall in the parking lot in the marina. With loading system in place, that's just not feasible. So we found another place, and they will probably have to put some wall material in there and build it up so that they can get their trucks down to the edge. But so you'll see some changes going on in that within the next month or so for sure. Marina docks down at the end of the beach. the end of the beach where there's a single dock down there now that they, for drop off and pick up and for people who are just coming from a boat to the beach. That's where it's going to be. We're looking at extending the last dock that's next to the sluice gate, making that just a little longer so that it's easier for pickup and drop off, especially for mobility challenged individuals. We've also, one of the things that we've had tagging along with the dock project is to put boards across the front edge of the docks, of the slips, so that when the pontoons come back and forth, they're not cutting into the plastic of the docks themselves. The maintenance crew has put boards in front of 2 pairs of slips on the lake side of the docks that come out from the walkway. I walked on them, looked at them. Not only are they going to protect the docks, but they'll add significant stability to the docks themselves. So if we can get those on in front of all of the docks throughout the whole marina, I think it'll just be a great thing and make them even more sturdy. They also put 2 additional cleats on the very ends of each slip to increase the ability of tying off properly and get the boat so it doesn't bang and beat up on the dock so much. So that should help their installation of those. Also tightened up the docks structure too. Finally, the deck of the patrol boat is getting redone. It got some damage last year, but it'll be getting some repair there. As soon as it's done, it'll be back on the water. Any questions?
Can you do the kayak racks?
Kayak racks, yes, they're being rented.
Excuse me,
No.
could we have just your name and lot number for the record,
Diana
please?
Clark, 73, 74, and 75.
Thank you.
And your question?
Yes. I'd like to see a rack set aside for people that need a close spot for health reasons. I have a kayak. We had boat. Now we don't have a boat. I bought me a kayak.
Cool.
And I go kayaking. And when Bruce was here, I was one of the very first people say you need to make some kayak racks down here. But I'm not on the internet all the time, and I didn't get in there first to get one. So I'm way in the back, and I have an artificial knee. And I think I went down there again today. There's 84 slots. And most people that go kayaking are young people. There's a few of us old people that do, but most of them are young people. And I was down there today, and you have 84 slots that are numbered right now. Mm-hmm. You have one rack that has got no numbers on it. And when I talked to the manager here, he said, well, people already got their spots and different things. The one rack that's down there could be moved up front so that people like myself who are challenged to get our kayaks from where I had my spot into the lake. I think it would be nice if you cared about us. We sold our boat.
Okay, Ms. Clark, just to make sure I understand, you do have a rack this year. You do have a storage rack.
Until the 15th.
But it is not as close in proximity to the lake, the launching ramp,
right,
as you would like it
in the back
to be. Okay, now, Dave and Dave, we handle these like we do the docks, correct?
Yes.
Some people have got primo spots, and when they relinquish them, they move, something worse happens to them, then people get the chance to move up.
Wait, like that.
Okay. Now, there is a rack in the back that is not numbered.
That's true. I was there.
Is
today.
There is a rack down there, but it is not a rack designed to handle kayaks. The reason that it's not in place anywhere and it's not numbered, that is used as we're adding additional racks. We use that to sit it in the place where the next rack is going to be, so we know where to put the holes in to put the next rack that's going to be set there. So then that is used as basically a prototype to set in the ground, so we know
Was there not a reason why you couldn't take and put one up there for people that are like myself?
That's quite possible. But I'm saying the rack you're seeing down there has a purpose, and
Okay,
that's
well,
why
I
it's
didn't know
not.
about that.
That's why it's not being numbered and not
I was trying to make a
packed.
reason. He says, well, everybody's got their names in for the racks now, and we can't change it. You know, everybody's got to be fair. Well, I don't think it's fair if you can't take and have at least one rack for people like myself that needs a kayak rack. I don't know.
We will address the situation as best we can. And since people, like I think Dave has probably said, all of the racks now are assigned, and it's very difficult to turn around and tell somebody, well, we're going to take your rack back now. I mean, that wouldn't be fair to those who've got the racks now either.
Well,
So
then in the beginning, it wasn't fair what you did, not having a rack for some people that might need it.
that's conceivable.
Well, that's my opinion.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll try and keep that into consideration in the future. Anything else? Thank you.
I'll just, on that, again, John, would it be possible to ask someone that's up close if they'd be willing to volunteer in this situation and just ask? Someone may say, well, okay, I understand if someone in her situation, they may be willing to do that. Just a suggestion. And,
An option.
you know, there might be someone that says yes.
That is a possibility. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, there's several things and we might be able to take a look at. Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Bonnie, will you be giving the safety report tonight?
I guess so.
Dave, was there something you wanted to add on the kayak? You sir may.
Dave was community manager. I neglected to put the Parks and Recreation Committee on this, on our agenda. I was asking if we could recognize Amy Ayers, who has a report from the committee.
I think we can. So Bonnie, you get to sit tight for just a minute. And Amy, please come up.
Well, I'm Amy Ayers, 2106. I have been on the, which seems to be a little kind of up in the air, were we a task force or were we committee?
You were a task force.
We were a task force, the pool.
You were a task force.
We were a task force. Okay, now that's cleared. Now we are pool and recreation. As of the beginning of March, we had our first meeting, which was great. We already have a task force for the trails, which is ran by John Getzendan. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Okay. They were kind of put off by COVID for about a year. But they have all the trails marked. We are cleaning them up. We have maps and signs that we are going to have for residents. So that's probably going to be a process. Maybe we take one trail at a time, work on it, and then go to the other trails.
Now these are the more rugged.
These are
the
the hiking trails, not the paved path, the cement. I'm trying to figure out what are we going to call the paved.
The bunny slope.
The what?
The bunny slope.
Right. The bunny slope.
That's go on.
The bunny. That's right. It's nice and flat.
Absolutely.
So we also, that is what's going on with the parks. I think John is doing a great job. We have some manuals coming in. I spoke with a gentleman from the Dearborn Parks. His name is John Howley, really nice young man, and he's forwarded over some information and how to maintain these trails, and so we're looking forward to that. As far as the pool is concerned, Miranda is working on, who is the pool manager, getting all of that. We're in full swing. Hope to be open in May and extend. We have all the guards to go through all the way to the end of September, which is huge. We also, as of today, I don't think we have any COVID restrictions, and we should be at full capacity. Of course, the board's approval. We do meet, we meet the second Wednesday at 6 right before lakes. And then the task force for the trails, they meet the third Monday And I apologize because I do not know what time they meet. And I'm sure they can call and find out through Dave and we welcome anybody that wants to come and be a part of it. It could turn into a Lakes meeting. It's getting longer, but I cut this short.
That's a good thing.
And I was trying to have a little PowerPoints. And if anybody has any questions, they can call me. Feel free, or Dave. I'm in contact with Dave all the time. We're pretty excited and to get a lot of stuff done.
Yes, are we? And thank you for taking on leadership of this committee. But I just have one clarifying question. I may have misheard you. I thought you referred to this as the pool and recreation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Parks and Recreation.
It's park and recreation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You are correct.
Okay.
That's my mistake. Any questions?
Amy, this is Scott Giska. Can you hear me by chance?
Slide.
I had heard rumors last year.
A slide. We have not had that discussion. That is something we can discuss. I'm curious as to where we would put a slide without modifying the pool, which that would be something.
Well, you got 2 diving boards. Maybe one could go with it. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I had heard rumors last year that just we might be putting a slide in. I think the kids would like that.
I think the kids would like it. Personally, I think there's a lot of things the kids would like. As of right now, we're just trying to maintain what we have. We did put in some new umbrellas and shading for everyone. We're working on getting some new chairs, actually maybe even restrapping them. Was there anything else?
Well, there's a couple of things. Another thing, I think the pool inside the bathrooms, they never have the fans going on up there. I don't know why. And they were caked with grease like dirt on them. And the fans should be on so that it helps dry up the water off of the floor. And I just think it would be good if you make sure that those
Make
fans
sure that they
are
have the
turned
fans on. Okay. I will definitely bring that up to Miranda.
Yeah, it would help with getting the water up off the floor. I noticed last year they did put down some mesh or something, which made it better.
Okay.
But I still think the fans should be put on and not left off all the time. Every time I go up there, the fans were never on. I've asked somebody to do it every time, and
well, that seems like an
nobody
easy
does
fix.
it.
I'm pretty sure we can get that taken care of for you.
Yeah, I think that would be nice.
Okay, not a problem. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Then I'm done.
Thank you very much, and welcome. Benefit.
Hi, everybody. My name is Becky Lords, Lot 1882. I'm Secretary of the Safety, Security, and Elections Committee. And since our wonderful chair, Bonnie Starks, couldn't make it tonight, I'll give the report. So, the Safety Committee this month, and I'm sure you can understand, we were focusing a lot on the elections that are coming up because our committee is Safety, Security, and Elections. And Ginny Boyer has done a great job as far as moderating the Meet the Candidates meeting. She did a good job with that. And she also is making sure that all is in order for counting the ballots after they have come back in. So, other topics that we're working on, we're looking at some things to do with fireworks. We are also looking at some things to do with stop sign locations and ongoing concerns with speeding. So we're a busy committee, but the meetings are really good. Everybody works together real well. Our next meeting is Tuesday, May 4th at 6:30 upstairs. And if anyone would like to come, they are welcome. Open meetings. If you have something that you would like put on our agenda, we would appreciate your contacting either Bonnie Starks or Dave, and then they can be sure it's on the agenda.
Any questions for Becky?
Any questions?
I would just point out that if anybody wanted to join the committee, they're a good group, very serious. They keep their meetings pretty much on track and concise.
And we do, we have kind of an informal way with our committee in that we ask that you attend a couple of meetings first. And then if there's a good fit, or if you're still interested or whatever, then we welcome new members. But we think it's only fair that you come and you see what we do, and maybe there's a fit, maybe not, but we're always there for everybody. So.
Thank you, Becky. And please thank Bonnie and everyone on the committee for all their hard work on the election process. That was a lot.
Thank you.
All right, Steve, anything for Civic?
All right, Steve Sorrell, 1930, 1931. Ours is pretty quick tonight. We had talked the last time about possibly doing a dance in April. We were debating whether we were going to do our spring dance. Well, looks like the world is going to open up and be free here in a few weeks. So we don't have a date yet. We know it's either going to be the last week in April or the first week in May. And this is still, we may or may not, we have to get the whole group on board, but we like to throw it out there because of the short notice and, get permission to do the dance.
Steve, where would you hold it?
At the golf course.
Okay.
Yeah, that's generally where we hold our dances, at the golf course.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll make it. Dave,
And-
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right.
Any questions or concerns? Dave Wisman, I assume by then the mask mandate is over, what, April 6th?
April 6th.
And we are up to full capacity? Okay.
Yep. We're blue right now and getting better.
Any?
I was gonna, will you work with Steve and Wassonville on that, or?
Yes. We always coordinate with him, and he's got Becky up there now.
Yes.
So we did the last dance, we coordinate with her. So that's where we don't know the date. We have to get with them, make sure what dates are open, and then coordinate around that. And we may have a fire, and it may be a mass burning fire this time.
That would be cool. Any questions or concerns from anyone in attendance?
So that's all we have. And then we had the polar bear plunge, had a great turnout, and keep ourselves apart, but that turned out very well.
Okay.
For a short notice, and everybody had a good time.
Okay. Okay. Before you go, let us just approve that dance so you're covered by all the insurance. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
that's
Aye.
approved. Did you want to do anything about Memorial Day, or are you going to wait?
The
till
Memorial Day
April?
technically isn't our event. I don't know the gentleman that puts it on.
Okay.
Um,
But you're not planning any
Who is it
concert
that
or
does it?
anything? Andy DiPuccio. He puts, but
He
we've
puts
had,
that.
we've had things the night of before
Right,
the,
we're willing to jump in and help
Okay.
him with anything. We can get with him on that, but that's technically not our event.
not your thing.
Yeah, I think that's the
Okay.
writers and then them at night.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you. Dave, there's nothing from judicial, is there?
No, but I do have that request for that Memorial Day concert that Andy requested.
Okay, all righty. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And you will
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, and it's what, a band event the night of Memorial Day? Any questions or concerns about that? Now, that's held down at the 77 acres, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, all in favor of approving the Memorial Day event?
Aye.
That's approved as well. Thank you, Dave. Okay, any old business? Any new business?
I
Is there,
would just like to,
God, I almost got that motion to adjourn in there, Bob.
I just wanted to mention quick, so on the finance committee, we have a member that is moving away from the community. The finance committee could use another helper if anybody's interested. I just wanted to make everybody aware of that.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
That's another great committee. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful Easter.